Hey guys, this is Phil, SO1. I'm here with Mark, SO6. Today we're here to talk to you about our primary weapons. Now, this will be the first video in a series of videos about our primaries. And in this video, we're going to talk to you guys about the primary weapons that the team runs and the reasons behind why we run them in terms of why we like them and the ergonomics behind them. So, if you're ready, we're going to jump right in.
Let's do it.
All right.
So guys, as most of you do know, the Storm Riders pretty much run M4 style weapons exclusively. So your 5.56 NATO Stanags. I guess we can get Phil here to elaborate a little bit more on that, and some people do run different rifles on our team.
Yeah, so we purposely chose M4s or M16s because they're so common. I mean, you can get them everywhere, and the mags are really common too. That being said, there are guys on the team who run different kinds of guns. They're still NATO guns, so they blend in fine, but they use different types of mags.
I run a Scar H, so a 7.62 rifle, and Shane Seward also runs a 7.62 M14. So like Phil said, they are NATO-style weapons, but for the most part, all of us do carry 5.56 mags. So at the beginning of the game, me and Shane both carry spare pouches. We'll grab a couple of the guys' mags, because some people here do run out of ammo a lot quicker than others. So everyone does carry enough magazines for the whole team.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and talk about our rifles and compare Mark's and mine's rifles. And one of the things we're going to talk about a lot is the size of the rifle and the ergonomics strictly as a function of play. So what we're going to talk about is how the size of the weapon affects our play style, how it affects what we do on the field, because that's not something you see very often, and we don't really think about that very much. It's like, well, I get a gun that I like the look of, but I don't really think about how that's going to affect me on the field. Is it going to am I going to have to adapt my play style to the rifle that I'm now carrying? So that's something we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of both sizes of rifles and sort of in between as well. So we're going to jump right in. All right, so we've got Mark here with his BFG, his big friendly gun. So as you can see, the whole thing doesn't even make it all the way to the bottom of the frame. It's quite a large gun, so we're gonna get Mark to talk to us a little bit about his gun. So I guess first off, how did you come to select this gun? Like, how did you get to this point?
Bit of a story behind that. You know, you guys all know most of my rifles in the past have been, 5.56 style Stanag weapons. I had an M4 and then I had an ACR. I love those, but I had noticed that we were missing another line of attack. Someone back with his eyes scanning the field. So I thought, well, maybe I can get a DMR style rifle and be the last line, more of the, the overwatch position for the team. So I saw a couple of pictures of this on the internet, so I went searching for one, and thankfully I found one on a Canadian website, the Mark 17 VFC Scar H SSR.
So obviously the gun is really long.
Yep.
How do you find like the ergonomics of it? Like, do you find that that has affected your play style?
I definitely had to learn a new style of play. Originally I got the gun, I thought I could just sit back and never move forward. We keep one line of defense, and I learned quick that that's not the best way. The guys were always too far ahead. I was too far behind, couldn't call targets. I did have the range on people, but I found a lot of the time, by the time the game progressed a bit further, that most of the guys were either out and I was by myself. So I learned quick that I have to move with the group, maybe a line or two of defense behind them, calling targets. The rifle definitely does restrict me in close quarters, and sometimes even in mid-range battles. Moving with the rifle is very difficult to come up on target. I almost need a second or two to find my target. So I really rely on these guys up in the front to make sure I can move safely from cover to cover and get my rifle set up, get on target, and start, engaging.
So you're obviously no slouch, and you do hit the gym. Do you find it heavy? Like, is it hard to wield it? Yeah.
By the end of the day, I'm definitely physically tired. I do prefer to rest the rifle, as you can see by the tape here. I do like to rest the rifle on objects and kind of rest my hand against it like this and scan. Which definitely takes the strain off my arms instead of holding it all the time. And I also get more of a steady shot. But for sure, you guys know I do run around, I do follow the team, I'm not slouching in the back. So by the end of the day, I'm definitely physically tired.
Do you find it difficult to keep up with the team when we're pushing objective, attacking objective, and we're potentially moving really fast? Do you find your rifle, the length of your rifle, hinders you in any way?
Sometimes yes. I don't like carrying this rifle and shooting on the move because it's really difficult. So the majority of the time I do cradle the rifle on my hip and run cover to cover. I do carry a small sidearm as well, and that will be on my hand in case I need it. As you can see by the width, getting it between tight spaces is a little bit, difficult. Like I said, I carry it like this mainly because that way I'm streamlined. I can get in between stuff, and then when I get to position, I can line the rifle up and actually get shooting. I will usually get a call from one of the guys up front saying, "Okay, Mark, we're set. You're clear to bound. Get to the next piece of cover, and then engage again." My older M4s didn't restrict me in that respect at all. A lot faster moving, all that kind of stuff. So this definitely restricts me a little bit.
But there's a tendency for people who start out in airsoft to want to have a gun with long range to be able to make kills at like a huge distance and be like the sniper, like in Call of Duty or whatever. Would you say, given your experience in airsoft, that this is a beginner gun? Like, would you recommend this for a beginner?
It's not really, especially if you're not on a team. Being with this style of rifle on your own is really difficult. I notice it when, say, the guys up front are being dwindled down and I'm by myself. I usually will just not even use this. I'll go straight to my sidearm because people coming at me and they want to get rid of me because I know the closer they are to me, the easier it is to remove me from the field. Whereas if I'm at distance, I'm at an advantage. So I usually get rushed. So if you're by yourself as a new player, you don't have a team, I wouldn't recommend going right to a DMR style rifle. I'd probably get an M4. So guys, I kind of just ran over the ergonomics and uses of my rifle in the team. We're going to talk to Phil about his rifle, which is pretty much the polar opposite of mine. Phil, you've been playing airsoft for a long time. You kind of want to know, this obviously isn't his first rifle. Kind of want to know why you picked this rifle and
Sure.
The benefits you find in it.
Yeah, so I've been playing airsoft for almost 10 years now. My first gun was a TM Famous F1. Then I had a Tokyo SR16, I had a G&G Scar L, and then I had this thing. And all the previous guns that I had were pretty long, like they were M4, M16 length barrels. The FAMAS obviously had an M16 length barrel, but it's a bullpup, so it was a little bit shorter. But the SR16 had a long barrel inside, the Scar had a long barrel inside, and that was because as a player, I thought that I needed to have a really long barrel to be really accurate. I realized through my playstyle, especially recently, that I don't like to sit behind the lines. I like to be up front, kicking indoors, running from cover to cover. That's what I find interesting in airsoft, and having a long barrel for that wasn't really necessary and really wasn't useful in any capacity. So I came across this thing, which is a G&P Veltor, or VL-Tor, whatever, and I looked at it, I saw the length of it, the barrel length was good, it's rear wired, it had everything that I wanted, like all the features and stuff like that, so I said great. So I got it a bit on a whim, and then I started playing with it, and I will never go back.
Phil, you're a lot shorter than most of us. You can definitely see why there would be a benefit to using a shorter rifle. Why don't you go through that a bit more?
Yeah, so I'm about 5'5", so I'm the short guy on the team, which is fine. Being a shorter guy means your arm length is shorter, right? You can't reach as far. So for me to have a shorter weapon that I can shoulder and really tuck into, it makes more sense for me. It means that I can keep my profile smaller, I can make sure that my aiming is good, and I'm not overextending my arms.
We'll just demonstrate that here now so you can see arm length does play a big role in the type of gun you should be choosing.
This is how I have to hold Mark's rifle.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a short guy, so this doesn't really work for me. Even my Scar and my SR16, they weren't quite as long, but they were still very long, and I had a really long profile rifle. It prevented me from adequately using my cover. It prevented me from really being up front and being as quick as I needed to. A longer rifle really hindered my playstyle, and unfortunately, I didn't realize that until very recently.
So Phil, obviously your gun is a shorter barrel length than me, and you hear people ranting about barrel length is accuracy, but if you're not in the back, having a longer barrel is not really that important. So kind of run through your play style and how this gun fits that perfectly.
So definitely having a longer barrel is going to give you more accuracy, but up front in cover where the enemy's only 25, 30 feet away from me, I don't need that barrel length. It doesn't serve any purpose for me to have that added accuracy. Yeah, people will say, oh, well, accuracy is final. Well, it's true, accuracy is final, but when I'm 30 feet away from you, this is just as accurate as Mark's gun.
Yep.
And it serves exactly the purpose that I need with none of the disadvantages of having that longer barrel. Not everyone on the team is going to use the rifle in the same way, and you want to have a rifle that really suits your playstyle. And for me, the guy who's up front, the guy who's kicking in the door, this is it. It's short, it's compact, it fits my size, and it fits my play style. And so, yeah, maybe it's not as accurate as Mark's gun, but this does exactly what I need it to and what the team requires me to.
So, Phil, being the old geezer to airsoft in Newfoundland that you are,
Yep.
you have used, you could say, pretty much every length of rifle. This being your shortest and maybe your old Scar being your longest. What can you say in terms of, each type of rifle, in terms of your role as you had with that rifle and the positives and the downfalls? Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Sure, yeah. So starting out in airsoft with longer guns, my playstyle was very much more akin to yours. Like, I would stay back. I wasn't nearly as good as you are as at calling out targets, and we didn't have that sort of teamwork back then. But it was a matter of staying behind the line and providing more accurate long range fire, and that was good. But the long rifles are certainly a lot heavier, and they're certainly a lot less maneuverable than this little tiny thing. So if you're looking for a gun that has great accuracy at long range, you're obviously going to want a gun with a long barrel, but you have to understand that the trade-off for that is maneuverability and weight on the weapon. And I mean, you definitely understand that, but I think a lot of new players coming out onto the field will not necessarily know what they're getting into when they get an M14 EBR and they realize that, they've got that good range, but they're also super front heavy, right? And they can't get on target and maneuver their weapon because it weighs 12, 15 pounds, and they're just not accustomed to that. So you really have to understand that you're going to have to adapt your play style. This is much more of a beginner weapon for sure, because it's something that's easy to use, easy to maneuver, lightweight, not too expensive, all that kind of stuff. The flip side of it is it's also perfectly fine for an advanced player like myself who fully understand what they want out of this weapon, right? So there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to all kinds of guns, and it really has to do with what your play style is. It's all about analyzing your own play style and finding a gun that suits the play style that you want, or adapting your playstyle to the gun you have. You can't do everything with every gun.
No.
So that's it for part 1 on our primaries. Like I said at the start, this is going to be a series. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about the specifics of each of these guns, the internal parts, any upgrades that we put in them, and as well, we're going to talk about some generic maintenance and gun docking advice.
So guys, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Also check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
See you later, guys.